Welcome into the Stack Shack Sports Show. What a weekend in Valorant. A wild, a fun, very competitive final weekend in Valorant. We crowned a champion from the regular season, split one here. We know who's going to Shanghai, and we even started to see the bracket for the group stage that will be going on in Shanghai. A lot to talk about in today's video. Let's go through each of it. We talked last week about G2 and 100 Thieves winning. And then we got into the weekend, and boy, was it a weekend, right? I mean, 100 Thieves 2-1 Leviathan. G2 2-0'd Crew. I think this was probably the most surprising one. Obviously, 100 Thieves and Leviathan have clashed before. It was close. It was a 2-1 Leviathan. Been a while since either of those teams had played. Crew, though, we thought looked pretty good. G2 2-0's them. And these matches, I mean, we're talking 13-5, 13-8. Wasn't particularly close. A Crew team that was absolutely on fire. But they lost to Leviathan at the end of the season, and G2 exposed them. G2 started really peaking at the right time, which set up our upper finals of 100 Thieves versus G2. Now, this was a matchup 100 Thieves had just a couple weeks ago 2-0'd G2, and we expected the same thing. It doesn't happen. 100 Thieves started off 13-5. They just beat the crap out of them on Ascent, which was G2's map pick, and then we went to Bind, a map 100 Thieves had never lost on. And G2 upset them. You gotta give G2 a lot of credit for making this upset happen. I do think, players on 100 Thieves mentioned, it's not really an excuse. We should have played better, but we did let our foot off the gas. They then, a close battle in split. Close battle in split 13-11. And it had to be a big comeback, right? 100 Thieves winning almost every round in the second half after pistol and bonus. So, good comeback. Thieves got back on the gas. Were able to close out the 2-1 win. That was your upper finals. Then, unfortunately for us, we looked at this, Leviathan and Crew, and said, well, I thought both of these teams were going to make it to Shanghai. Unfortunately, only one of them could. Leviathan gets the win. I do think Leviathan consistently has been better than Crew. It was a 2-1. Crew started with that 13-6, looked to have some momentum, and then Leviathan finishes them off. Again, Aspas having, crazy score lines as he typically does. 61 and 40 plus 21. That's just, man, is he good. Is he good. Which set up a fun lower final matchup. Absolute banger, right? 5 maps. Started with an overtime. G2 with a decent win. Solid win. Another overtime on Icebox. Leviathan's up 2-1. Then Lotus, G2 gets the win. Closing out the match with 4 straight. And then Ascent, close. These matches are so close. 13-11, 13-10, 14-12 overtime, 13-7, 14-12 overtime. Absolutely fantastic. Valen, Aspas, both fragging out of their minds. G2 a little bit stronger on the day. Another bit of an upset. G2 really has peaked at the right time. Again, I've been critical of them making that switch with Leaf changing positions, bringing on Icy. I've been critical of making that in tournament, kind of in the middle of the regular season, switching out the roster. But it does seem to have worked at this point. They seem to be gelling together. Icy still, to me, feels like the weak link on the team. If you compare Duelist to Duelist, I mean, do we really expect Valen to be fragging out this much every game? I don't know. He has this season, and it's been very impressive. And he did against 100 Thieves. But how much do you really want your IGL to be the one fragging a bunch? I just personally don't think that sets you up long-term for success. So, Grand finals, which is probably what we're going to talk about the most here, because it previews, I think, what we can expect in Masters Shanghai. 100 Thieves, 3-0 G2. Now, I think the question becomes, is 100 Thieves really that much better than everybody else in Americas? Because G2 beat Crew, they beat Leviathan, right? They beat both teams that we thought would be going to Shanghai. So G2 goes, Leviathan goes, 100 Thieves goes. G2 beat Leviathan. And really have battled with all of the other teams. They've beaten everybody in Americas that we thought was, a legit contender. So what does that mean with 100 Thieves? And the fact that they really 13-9, 13-7, 13-8. Again, not blowouts, but these were kind of cruise into victory wins. Like, yes, it was competitive. On Breeze, Thieves had to come back in the second half. On Bind, Thieves had to come back in the second half. But again, both of those maps I would consider to be a bit one-sided, whether you're on offense or defense. And that kind of played out that way. And Sunset, back and forth, and Thieves get the win. G2 made a little attempt at a comeback here with 4 in a row towards the end. But overall, these are not super competitive matches. We didn't even get to see a center split. 3-0. Getting 3-0'd is legitimate. And if you're G2, I don't know what you could have done. I mean, Valen played well. Again, is Icy the weak link? If we look at the all maps, Icy played well, actually, in this. So if Icy plays well, and you still, everybody on G2 was negative across all maps. Everybody, Cryo was just even. Bang plus 20. Super impressive. Super, super impressive. 100 Thieves is the top of VCT Americas. It's been a really long time since 100 Thieves fans, myself included, could say that. We are the best team in Americas. How will we fail on the international stage? That remains to be seen. But I do think Americas is sending the 3 best teams to champions. G2, Leviathan, and 100 Thieves looked, over the course of this regular season, to be the best. I don't actually feel that G2 getting in over Crew is a huge upset. The way they've played in the playoffs, they did not look, in my opinion, good in the regular season. I mean, they got 2-0'd by Loud. But then in playoffs, they 2-0 Cloud9. They 2-0 Crew. They gave 100 Thieves a fight. Absolute war and battle with Leviathan, and they come out on top. And then they kind of get rolled by 100 Thieves. But, to be fair, 100 Thieves did not struggle as much down the stretch as some might have suggested. Since the win in Week 2 against G2, they've only dropped 1, and that was to Crew. And that was a 2-1, and it was, somewhat close in some moments. And again, I think there was a little bit of looking ahead to this NRG matchup just because of Boostio on 100 Thieves, the rest of the EG core, or really the 2 EG stars in Ethan and Demon 1 moving to NRG, joining the Optic core, this kind of super team they formed. Boostio obviously is going to be wanting to beat them. I think they forgot. They had also, with the win over Cloud9 and the way some other matches had gone, they had already qualified for playoffs by the time they were facing Crew. So it wasn't, a big deal. That win was for 1 championship point. It didn't have as much, pride or ego involved. It also would not have changed their seeding. Like, they didn't all of a sudden get a bye. Crew and Leviathan had already locked those in at that point. So, Crew, they had an undefeated record they were defending. 100 Thieves, really all they were going for is 1 championship point in that matchup. And it was still a 2-1. They got a map off them. So it was close. But other than that, I mean, this is dominant stuff. 2-0 Energy, 2-0 Loud, 2-1 Leviathan, 2-1 G2, and then the rematch against G2, they 3-0. Now, as a quick preview, I'm going to give my predictions in a video later this week. But as a quick preview for Masters Shanghai, we're going to have a Swiss stage. There's a lot of new faces here, some returning ones. Genji, I think, is an early kind of returning favorite. But how the Swiss stage works is it is 8 teams. And they're going to play in this random draw to start, and then winners and losers play, and then, winners play. How it works is if you get 2 losses, you're out. If you get 2 wins, you've qualified. So it kind of just streamlines, takes 8 teams, turns them into 4 teams. Pretty cool structure. Go check out the Valorant Masters Shanghai 2024 format explained video on Riot's YouTube channel. Sitting here on Valorant Champions Tour. Go check it out. Great, quick 2-minute explanation of how the tournament's going to work. Those top 4 teams will then join the top 4 qualifiers. This was why Grand Finals were so important for all these teams. Grand Finals means you get to skip the Swiss stage. You don't have to play any of those games. You just sit there and wait. And then the other benefit is, based on a random draw of who gets to pick first, but these 4 teams get to pick their first round opponents. So, based on who qualifies out of the Swiss stage, then 100 Thieves, Edward, Fnatic, Paper X, they get to pick from those 4 teams and say, hey, I want to play this team. Going to be a random draw. Obviously, whoever gets the short end of that draw is not going to be able to pick their opponent. They're just going to get whoever's left. But big advantage by winning those grand finals. Super important. Should set up some absolutely fantastic matchups, because you're going to have a situation where, who gets picked first, that's going to set up a lot of trash talk. Oh, you want to play me because you think you can beat me. Oh boy, some rivalries are going to be brewing in that one, especially if we start getting some, NA Europe CSGO vibes going. Should be very exciting. Should be very fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to give predictions in this video. Obviously, these teams qualify. Good to see Fnatic here after not making the first event. We'll talk about all the new faces. We'll give my predictions in a video later this week. But for now, that is the end of Split 1. Americas. 100 Thieves come out on top. G2, your runner-up, with Leviathan getting that final slot going into Masters Shanghai. I do think the Americas region is one of the stronger regions. We saw that last global event in Masters Madrid, where Sentinels wins. Sentinels didn't even qualify. They had a struggle in the regular season. Pretty interesting. It should be fun to see some of the new faces, some of the old faces. Again, Genji, I think, is probably maybe the favorite, having had a significant international experience already this season, only falling in a close 3-2 to Sentinels. If you're more interested in my football content than my Valorant content, don't worry. I've got football coming for you tomorrow, so hopefully I'll see you then.